Some people will be asking then, Mr. Thomas, why you for this position and why now?
The position is a good position. It's fundamental. Basically, for the last 30 years, the issues that have needed tackling in the Isle of Man when we ask people about them are to do with on-off island travel, to do with housing, to do with the infrastructure around the island generally, and been discussing with the Chief Minister on and off for quite some time about how we apply the approach of people first and maintaining infrastructure in the context of a very important job, which is the infrastructure one. And I'm going to give it a focus of communities, housing and infrastructure.
You are the fourth minister for this department in just over 2 years or so. And I think it would be fair to say previous ministers have talked a lot about inheriting problems, deflecting personal responsibility. How are you going to approach that challenge?
Just tackle the challenges. So the Chief Minister and I think, are aligned on our approach. We've got an opportunity with a fresh start to rebuild industrial relations, focusing on customers and also the drivers in terms of bus services. At the airport, we've got issues around air traffic control, which we'll probably have a chance to discuss more in the next few days. And we've got a new director coming in August, and I'm very much looking for a fresh start at the airport, and so on through all the very important areas that communities, infrastructure cover.
There's a lot of change for the department. I suppose it can be very deeply unsettling for the staff. We heard yesterday the Director of Transport is also retiring. A lot of challenges, as you've outlined. What's your first priority?
The first priority, I think, is to make sure that the public understand that I'm going to carry on as I've always carried on in Manx politics, which is not me that matters, it's actually making people understand the facts, giving them options, and then making sure that when we make choices that there's a consensus behind those choices. So I've got two departmental members in Kerry Sharp and Tim Glover, both who've got media background, and I would think the first thing we might decide to do together is make sure we get inside each of our challenges and explain where we are and what options we've got and how what we can do to make people's lives better, because we want to put people first rather than buildings first, and rather than ships and rather than terminals first.
Interesting that you say you're going to carry on as you have always carried on in Manx politics, because this is not your first time in the Council of Ministers. You were Policy and Reform Minister in Howard Quayle's government. Mm-hmm. You were sacked then because your actions were, and I'm going to quote here, at odds with the principle of collective responsibility. So you didn't always vote with Comyn on certain issues. Mm-hmm. Will you toe the Comyn line this time?
Well, no, I've got some pre-declared positions, quite obviously, as I put down an island plan myself in my manifesto, and I've got 8 or 9 months to develop some issues that are very important to me, and I think I've always had a lot of respect for the Chief Minister. Was delighted when we started talking again this month and last month about this role now and another role now as well. But we also talked to him in September as his team was being put together, and have got experience working with the Chief Minister. In fact, I even proposed him to be Chief Minister in 2016. I wasn't sacked correctly for breach of collective responsibility, did I? Because I had a definite pre-declared position in respect of planning, and I was right. Tim all voted with me rather than with government. But put all that to one side. People don't matter in this. Policy matters. People need to be seen first in respect of the huge number of infrastructure challenges. And the focus of the department now is on dealing with those real issues for people in our community, for housing, which is an absolute major crisis. And I hope I can extend the approach that we've successfully done for housing into some of the other major challenges at the airport on the buses and flood risk management and all the other things that infrastructure department tackles.
Infrastructure Minister Chris Thomas, thank you for joining us. We will be speaking to Mr Thomas in more depth, so there will be more on Manx Radio a little bit later.